In the previous video, we created a servlet and used it to generate a web page. But the web page isn't very interesting right now. It just displays the exact same string of HTML every time it's accessed. In this video, I will show you how to create a web page that can take user input and modify its output in response. There are basically two ways of doing this. First, you can pass parameters via the URL itself, and second, you can add user input through text boxes. Let's imagine that our servlet will eventually be part of a search engine. When the user provides input, the servlet will treat that input as a search term and then do something with it. The first thing we'll need for such a program is an output statement letting users know what they searched for. So I'll go back to the servlet class and modify the printed statement in the doGet method to state you searched for, and then we'll leave that blank because we're going to add this in as a wildcard later. If we save and run this on the server, then it will just display the text string exactly as before. But this time, we're going to add a parameter to the URL that indicates the search term. Appending the input to the URL is very easy. The syntax is just to add a question mark to the end of the URL, followed by the name of a parameter, search term, and then an equals sign and the parameter itself. You might have noticed similar syntax in the URLs for Google searches or other websites where you are expected to put in a simple parameter. Now, going back to the servlet code, we need to introduce some way of handling this parameter. We can access that parameter through the HTTP servlet request object. The syntax for accessing this parameter is request.getParameter with a string that matches a parameter name we chose earlier, search term. This will then output the string that we added as the value of the parameter, test. So we can just assign that to another variable called search term. So we design a new string, search term equals a parameter. Now that we have that string, it's a simple matter to change the print statement to print you searched for, followed by the user provided search term. Now save and redeploy your servlet. It should say you searched for null because no parameter has been passed yet. Notice that the URL just says sample_servlet. When we add the parameter with the syntax $search term equals test and hit enter again, the text will change. This is a quick and easy method of inserting parameters into your web page, and technically you could have any number of parameters in the URL. However, it's not very convenient to have to physically modify the URL every time you want to change a parameter. It would be much easier if there was simply a text box and the server took care of the formatting for you. Fortunately, servlets have the post feature, which allows you to do exactly that. First, we'll need a new web page. So let's right-click on Web Content, choose New, and then get a new HTML file. So we'll have to go through Other, back to Web, and HTML file again. This time I'm going to call the file inputform.html. And just click Finish. And inside this HTML file, I'm going to create a form with the form tag. A form is essentially a series of text boxes that take in user input and allow it to be used by your server. For now, we want this form to call our previous servlet, so I'll add the parameter action servlet to the form tag. So as we type this in, we'll go form, and then add the parameter action equals, and then servlet in quotation marks. This syntax tells the server to look for another page on the server with the same path as the current page, but with the final string servlet. Next, we need to specify the input. For the text box itself, we can just add the line input name equals search term and close the tag. Recall that search term is the name of our original parameter, so this line simply ensures that we have the correct format for our variable. The second line is input type equals submit in quotation marks and close the tag, which adds a submit button. Clicking the submit button will take whatever is written in the text box, pass it to the URL ending in servlet as the search term variable, and then run the servlet page. So let's try it out. When I save and run this HTML file on the servlet, it will produce a text box and a submit button as desired. I can then type in some text, click the submit query button, and voila, it automatically appends the input to the URL in the same format as before, and it displays the correct message. Our servlet now has the ability to take in input without requiring the user to know any fancy syntax.